Alright, so I'm going to do something a little different today. Since it's been raining a lot, it's usually a pretty good time to plant plants in the ground. You don't have to water anything in, they just kind of acclimate pretty quickly. But I was looking over at my little table on the side, and I noticed that this little Garcinia right here is it's looking pretty dang good. And one thing I know that Garcinias like to do when you have them in pots is they like to stick their little roots out. And you can keep them in a pot and they'll do well. Like I've got these seashore mangosteens that have been in these bags, and they do well in the bags. However, eventually they're going to be bigger, and it's going to be hard to keep them in a pot. Oh, look, there's a little green bee. That's cool. Anyways, yeah, so I like putting my Garcinias in the ground because they're going to get big, and when they get big, they make a lot of fruit. When you get a lot of fruit, you get to eat a lot of fruit, and that's the ultimate goal here, right? So, what am I talking about this guy for? Well, let's put him in the ground. I got to find a spot for him, and they do much better when you put them in the ground younger. An example would be I've got these imbies here that were bigger when I put them in the ground, and they took a while to start pushing out new growth. Actually, this one here hasn't pushed any out at all. This one was in the ground longer and just recently started pushing out new growth. But I've got this really tiny one here. You can kind of see it there, and it's been pushing out new branches over and over and over and over. I think it's on its, well, I say over and over and over, but it's pushed out twice. Same thing with these. Well, one of the xanthochimuses got burnt over there, but this xanthochimus here is pushing out. Oh, I almost dropped my rare ass Garcinia there. This xanthochimus is pushing out a new branch, a new leaf. So, my other bigger ones, again, this is a really good example. The root ball fell apart on it because they don't really have like a, I'm going to say not that they don't have a strong root system, but they don't have a lot of those little feeder roots. So when you take them out of the pot when they're bigger, they just have a long taproot that coils around. So getting back to this guy, you can see the little taproot right there. We're going to pop him in the ground so that he doesn't have to deal with the whole coiling taproot problem. But, that kind of puts me in another predicament. Where do I put it at? Well, the bigger plants can kind of handle the sunlight a little better. So I have a couple of options. I do want them to get as much sun as possible. In my smaller yard, I also have to consider how much sunlight am I going to get. I've got these bigger trees. They're eventually going to block out sunlight if I don't keep them pruned back. Like this avocado probably will get pretty big. So, a bad spot for it would probably be right there. It would probably be okay, but it's going to be eventually completely shaded out, and we don't want that. I know typically the Garcinias do grow pretty wide. They make like a pyramid shape, so maybe it wouldn't be too bad. But you can kind of see how I have things staggered too. So the sunlight kind of comes at an angle down this way. So I could, in theory, put the Garcinia right there, but it's going to get blasted by the sun. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a good spot for it. So I'm going to consider that because I can always put another plant in front of it that's already acclimated to the sun to give it a little bit of shade. Some other considerations, I can put the Garcinias over here. Well, I've already got a couple, so this is a lemon drop. I'm not sure if it's a Brasiliensis or an intermedia. I've lost track. We'll find out whenever it fruits. But I have another Pacuri here, so this is the same plant as this that I directly sowed. And you can see how I've been shading it out. It hasn't sprouted yet, but this is an option as well. But I have this lemon zest mango there, which is eventually going to start shading it out. But maybe not so much of a problem because of the angle of the sun kind of coming from that way. You know, I've got my Luke's Garcinia over here, which I kind of want to give it its space to grow as well. So I don't know, where are we going to put it? Let's think about it. You know, we maybe could do like a row of Garcinias here. I don't think that would be terrible. It's pretty open. You know, having the two Pacuris near each other might not be a bad idea either. Might help with some cross-pollination. So maybe we'll do that. We'll maybe put it right next to this pigeon pea. Maybe I'll put it right here, right in this spot. Or maybe I'll put it right next to the pigeon pea. Yeah, so something to think about. You know, so let me put this thing in the ground and I'll splice the end of it together to show you what it looks like. All right. So, dug the hole. We'll get over there in a second. I'm getting wrecked by mosquitoes. But I think this is a pretty good spot for it. You can see it in the ground right here. Now, let me explain a couple things that I've been doing lately. So, got a lot of leaf litter and like pieces of tree dropping from these oak trees. And that's actually really valuable stuff. You know, it adds nutrients back to the soil and it breaks down. And before it's breaking down, it acts like a natural mulch. So I've got like a pile of compost over there that anything that I don't just chop and drop, I put in the corner, and turns into some good stuff, and it mixes with the sand really good. So what I did here is I actually dug the hole. It's not really a hole as much as I just parted the soil, because the plant is actually, you know, it's only about that long. So I actually try to plant higher back here, because there's like a slope, and I would prefer, you know, the water to be able to settle in there before it starts draining out a little bit, at least until it gets established. I'm sure once the taproot gets in, you know, it won't really matter there, but you know, this will keep it from getting washed away for the most part. But another thing I like to do is I look for these big chunks of oak or any other branches that are lying around, and I kind of form a barrier around it. That's to keep the squirrels from digging around it. It also gives it a little bit of extra, you know, it kind of acts like a mulch, I guess. But you know, there's like these mushrooms that grow in there, so they're already inoculated. It's just good stuff. And then on top of the compost, I just grabbed whatever leaf litter was on the ground and used that as a natural mulch. So feeling pretty good about this spot. I'll wait till the sun comes back out. It's a little cloudy right now, but you know, I may, depending on how it's getting hit by the sun, put a plant in front of it. But we'll see how it does. I did move it out. You know, I didn't really harden it off at all. So, you know, depending on how I feel, I might change that, which I'll update in another video at some point. But you know, kind of like I'm doing the Luke's Garcinia here. So, yeah. But that's pretty much it. That's the Garcinia unknown species. It's a Pacuri. Hopefully they do well in my yard. I know they're from a similar climate in South America, so they should be able to tolerate light frost, cold weather compared to other Garcinias. But so we'll see if that's a good one. But yeah, thanks for watching.